Welcome to FitPros Live. We are so excited to be here with you today. Welcome to your FitPros Live Healthy Cooking Demo, and we're going to be talking about sustainable cooking today. So this is going to be great. I am going to walk you through the healthy aspects of all these foods that we're making. We're going to be making pan-fried Tuscan chicken with vegetables, along with lemony Mediterranean potatoes. So it is absolutely wonderful. You can see I've got all the ingredients out here. If you're cooking with me today, you want to go ahead and get your oven set to 400 degrees. Mine is just heating up. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself to you. I am Suzy Lewis. I am a national board certified health and wellness coach, and I specialize in helping high achievers align their well-being with their success so that they can avoid burnout and live their intended life. Today, I'm going to be sharing my expertise with you about healthy cooking, and especially sustainable healthy cooking, because that's something that's really on all of our minds as we have, the climate changes and Earth Day is coming up. And so we want to just be especially mindful of how our lives are really affecting our planet and our pocketbook. So the nice thing about sustainable cooking is also that you're going to be saving money. So I'm going to be going through all kinds of tips and health highlights of the different foods that we're using. So the first part that we're going to get started on, I've already got a pound of pasture raised chicken, and I have it cut up into bite-sized pieces. So these are breast fillets, and what I did is I just pre-cut them. They're into bite-sized pieces. When you're cooking, however you're cooking your chicken, you want to make sure that it's similar sizes so that it's going to cook evenly. So we've got that part. The chicken's going to cook a little bit quicker, but what we want to get started on right now is our potatoes. So I'm going to take a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. I'm just going to put that into my potato pan here, and I'll set this here so that you can see me. Okay. And we're also going to be using a little bit of broth with this. So one way to make your broth is to use one of these concentrates. You can also, of course, make your own broth and your own bone broth or anything like that, and that is a great option as well. But these are so much more sustainable than using the kind of broth that's already pre-made and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to take a little spoonful of this, and we're going to just mix up some of this broth to have on hand, making about a cup of it here. So we might not use that whole amount, but it's so easy. This is the kettle. This is a really good just kitchen gadget. If you're looking for something new to add to your kitchen, you might consider getting a kettle. So I had boiled water there, and this was my broth. So we've got that going here. And now we're going to take 2 pounds of potatoes. I've got a medley of potatoes here, and we really want to be leaving the skin on the potatoes because that's going to add some extra fiber. Potatoes get a bad rap sometimes. People kind of avoid eating them because they're starchy. The thing is that there's actually resistant starch in potatoes. And so it makes it so that the potatoes, first of all, they have a lot of fiber if you leave the skins on. And then that resistant starch actually goes in and helps our gut chemistry. It's nutrients for the gut. And it helps to keep our blood sugar nice and steady. So a lot of times during the day, our blood sugar is just all over the place. We're eating fast food, we're eating sugary things that don't have enough fiber and protein. And so we get on that roller coaster with our blood sugar. And with it, our energies on that blood sugar roller coaster, our emotions. We're not very nice drivers. So one of the ways that we can stabilize everything is to add that fiber and protein, which this meal has a lot of in there. So we're just kind of cutting these up into bite-sized pieces, and we're going to toss them into our pan there. And like I said, this is 2 pounds. You can actually use any kind of potatoes for this. I really especially like these medleys. It's always a nice idea to try and get as much color as you possibly can into your diet as far as fruits and vegetables go, not that artificial coloring, of course, we want to avoid that. But yeah, with all the different colors of fruits and vegetables, they each have slightly different nutrients in there. So it's really great to have a variety. I think it also makes for a really beautiful presentation. So these are purple red little new potatoes. They're really good. And this is a dish that you can easily kind of double up and make it. You can make extra if you'd like. Now, the one thing I will say about potatoes is they don't really freeze all that well in my experience. So I kind of recommend just cooking the amount that you're going to be using and probably not freezing them. They tend to get a little mushy when you freeze potatoes. Okay. And I'm cutting these all up in pretty much similar sizes because we want that to all cook the same. So we're just kind of slicing this up. Some of these potatoes are different sizes. I like to go for organic where I can, but if you're buying conventional grown, that's fine as well. Sometimes people think, oh, I don't want to bother doing fruits and vegetables if I can't buy organic. And that is absolutely not the case. We want to buy organic where it's possible, but we don't have to. I'm discarding any scraps from my veg over here in my compost bowl. And that is another way that you can really be more of a sustainable cook is by composting. So we're going to go through the ABCs of composting actually. And it might surprise you on some of them. So of being sustainable. So the A of being sustainable is to avoid buying in bulk. Believe it or not, you might think, oh, bulk is the way to go. It actually isn't unless you're going to use it all up. A lot of times we buy in bulk and then we don't actually use it all. So we end up wasting it. So certainly if you have a real big family or you just tend to buy in bulk and it works for you, then that's a great idea. But going to Sam's Club and Costco and just buying everything in bulk is not always a good idea unless we're definitely going to be using it. I like to go to the grocery store once, usually twice a week and get local fresh food as I go through the week. So you can see these potatoes it's going to be a pretty hearty dish of potatoes here. And honestly, the cutting part is the hardest part. The rest of it's going to be very, very easy. So here we go. So it sounds like my oven's talking to me, so we're ready to go there. The B of sustainable cooking is to blanch your fruits and vegetables before you freeze them. And before they get old. So a lot of times we end up throwing away so much food. I think the average American, I read this statistic that the average American discards about 21% of their food that they buy, which equates to about 238 pounds of waste per individual per year. And that's just in the United States alone. So discarding our food is so wasteful. Obviously, we don't want to be like that. It's also very time consuming and it wastes a lot of money and it really contributes to the greenhouse gas problem that we have. So we want to, when food is starting to ripen, for instance, with a banana, you could have a banana that's kind of getting ripe, and I have one right here. I'll just show you. So what you can do with bananas is when they get brown and they're like this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to have another thing of banana bread, you can actually just take them and peel them and put them into a freezer bag or another freezer container. You can just peel them and then quarter them and put them into a freezer bag. I'm going to set these aside because I'm going to do that a little bit later, but I thought I'd show you that just since I do have those ripe right now. Okay, so now we've got all of our potatoes in here. We want to be cooking these for about 20 to 25 minutes, and we're going to use about a whole lemon of lemon juice. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my lemon, and I forgot to get my citrus squeezer out. This is one of my very favorite kitchen gadgets. Let me just grab this out here. And we're going to take this citrus squeezer. This is a great just kitchen tool to get if you don't have one. And you can get it at the grocery store. You can even get them at the dollar stores, I think. So just want to squeeze that lemon, and then I'm going to pop the rest of it into my compost pile here. Okay. So about one juicy lemon is going to be the amount that we want. Okay. So we're going to have a lot of lemony fresh flavor in there. I'm also going to take some freshly ground pepper, and I'm going to just grind that on in here. And we're going to put a little more olive oil in. So we're using about 3 tablespoons total of olive oil. And I'm going to give that a mix. And then just to add some liquid for it to cook, and we're going to put some of that broth in there. I like to make a little extra broth too, just in case we need some later on. So we've got a little extra. We're probably not going to use all of this, but I'm going to go ahead and pour this in and then mix it up. And then we're also going to be using fresh oregano. So I've got my oregano right here. And doing kitchen herbs is a great way to be more sustainable as well and more economical. So buying herbs at the grocery store in the little tiny packs for a few dollars each is really not very sustainable or practical. So obviously I like to do my indoor garden here, but you can also just have a terracotta pot and just put a few herbs in there: oregano, cilantro, chives. You can have whichever one. Basil is one of my favorites, dill, and you can just grow them in a terracotta pot in your kitchen, and then they're ready to go for you. So this is our potatoes, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. No pun intended there. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and pop this in the oven, and I'm going to set it for about 20 minutes. Okay. There we go. All right, awesome. Now we're going to get started with our chicken. So right here, this is going to be so easy. We're just using one pan for this. So easy, easy, easy. If things are too difficult or too challenging, I feel like we just end up going through a drive-through or picking something up, and then we're not being sustainable at all. So we want to just get a nice, pretty large frying pan here, or you can even use a different kind of skillet. If you want to use like a cast iron pan, that works well too. This is just kind of my all-around skillet, and we're just really going to cook everything in this pan. So I've got my chicken already cut up there. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of butter, and I forgot to get my butter out, so let me grab my butter over here. So we're going to actually pan fry our chicken in a little bit of butter, and that is going to help it get browned and be absolutely delicious. So I'm putting about a tablespoon of butter in my pan, and we're just going to let that heat up, and then we'll go ahead and brown our chicken right up there. Sounds good. So the C, you probably guessed, the C of sustainable cooking is composting. And we already talked about that. So if you just put your bits and pieces, the leftover pieces of your veg in there, you can also put eggshells, coffee grounds work really well. And you want to put it into a dark container, like a little trash container is what I use. So I usually just kind of have it by my sink, and I put my scraps in there, and then you can put it into a bigger container, and it will actually pretty much turn into just kind of like a moldy, it looks like soil, and that's really what it does become. There's lots of other ways that you can get more complex into composting, so that's a really fun topic to learn more about, and I really do recommend that you do that. So now that our pan is nice and hot here with our butter, we're going to go ahead and put the chicken in there. And let's talk a minute about chicken. So chicken and poultry, so any of our poultry, this is including eggs and turkey and anything, we really want to try and get pasture raised is going to be the best option. And with chicken, it's just a really great source of protein. There's about 36 grams of protein in a cup of cooked chicken. So it's a great way to balance out, again, balancing that blood sugar with a lot of protein and fiber is really the keys for that. So once we put it in there, we're just going to make sure each piece has its own little spot because we want it to get nice and browned up. And we're just going to let it cook for a few minutes on each side. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get all the veg kind of ready. And one of the things that I love about this dish is that you can use up all kinds of vegetables that you might have laying around. So it's a really good midweek, you've got pieces of carrots or asparagus or whatever you might have. These are some great all around, just good vegetables that we're using here. But if you have other ones on hand, feel free to use those. So the first one, we're going to put an onion in there. We're also going to be putting a zucchini. We've got some cherry tomatoes and some spinach and a little bit of garlic as well. So for my garlic, I like to just use the minced organic garlic that I get at the store. It's really simple, saves me some time and cleanup, but you're more than welcome to do your own garlic as well. So I'm going to go ahead and flip these pieces of chicken over. And we're going to get them browned on the other side. And we're just gently cooking this chicken. So we like to get that nice, glazy, kind of caramelized, buttery look to it. And that is it's going to keep it nice and moist and tasty and be really good. Just flip over all those pieces there. If you hold up your fist, this is a serving of fruits and vegetables. So a fun thing to do is think about your day yesterday and think, how many servings of fruits and vegetables did you have yesterday? So ideally, we really want to be having 7 to 13 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. And diversity is the key that's the name of the game. So we want to be as diverse as possible with our plant matter. And that's another reason why this is a great kind of dish to just add that variety in. If there's something that you really like a lot, you can toss that in there, or something that you have left over. Even if it's maybe from a restaurant, if you have some leftovers, that's a really good idea too. Move this aside. That's over there. Okay, great. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to get our vegetables cut up. And I almost forgot our mushrooms here as well. So the mushrooms are one of the stars of the show. Mushrooms are really rich in potassium. Believe it or not, 2/3 of a cup of mushrooms actually has the same amount of fiber in it, or I'm sorry, of potassium in it as a banana. So they're a great source for that. We're going to take our onion, and you can use any kind of onion you like. This is just a yellow onion. And we're going to take the stem side of the onion, and we're going to go ahead and cut that part off. There's a lot of different ways to cut an onion, but this is my favorite way. And then, of course, we're going to toss that into our compost there. And then we're going to cut it in half. So we always want to be using a flat surface when we're cutting vegetables. And this little kind of hairy part of the onion, that's the part that we want to leave intact because that helps us to keep that enzyme that makes your eyes water. That keeps it intact. So we want to just peel back the outer layer of the onion here. And we're going to put that into our compost pile. Sometimes people take too big of a chunk when they're peeling back that onion. So there's a lot of great phytochemicals and vitamin C and all kinds of things right underneath the skin. So we really want to not peel back too much, just that outer layer. And we'll go ahead and get these ready to cut now. And it looks like our chicken is doing really well. I'm going to turn it down just a tiny bit there. So I want it to cook all the way through. And now I'm just going to take my knife, my chef's knife, and I'm going to just cut right through the middle. And then I'm going to actually keep this stem part intact. And I'm going to slice almost all the way, but try and keep that part intact. That's, like I said, that's where the enzymes that make your eyes water, they come from there. And it also gives you a nice handle to hold on to. And then when I cut it, I'm just using the nice divisions that are naturally in the onion to make some really nice dice-sized pieces. So that's just a really fun way. Like I said, there's a bunch of different ways that you can cut the onions, but I've found that's my favorite way, and it's very simple. And then we'll just discard that piece. We're going to save up all of our vegetables to saute here in a minute once our chicken is ready. I'm going to remove that to another dish, and then we're going to go ahead and saute all of our veggies. Some particularly sustainable vegetables that just tend to not make very much of a footprint are asparagus and artichokes, believe it or not. So those are some fun ones as well. Like I said, you can just kind of focus on what is in season for you. Oops, I want to save that. I don't quite want to put that in there yet. Okay, let's see how our chicken's doing. It's probably close to being cooked. So the thinner you cut your chicken, the quicker it's going to cook, obviously. I'm going to just let that go for a little bit more while we cut up some more of our vegetables. So I've got my mushrooms here, and mushrooms you definitely want to, they grow in the dirt, so you definitely have to wash them. Wash all your vegetables good anyway. But like I said, they're kind of underused. I think people sometimes don't always use mushrooms, and they are a great source of actually B vitamins as well, and potassium and fiber. We're just going to cut the end of them off and just kind of cutting these up into bite-sized pieces. With our vegetables, we really want to try and cut them to be pretty equal sizes. That way they're going to cook evenly. So my only piece of advice on mushrooms is that, oops, uh-oh, got turned off here. Okay, there we go. So my only piece of advice with mushrooms is that you do not eat wild ones unless you really know what you're doing, because there are a lot of poisonous mushrooms. So if you're someone that goes mushroom hunting and you really know how to do that, that's fine. But otherwise, definitely want to stay away from mushrooms that you find. And there's a lot of variety that you can get in this store. Portobello, these are actually called baby bella mushrooms. I got them just at my local grocery store. And they're really good. They add a lot of texture and flavor to your food. The flavor comes mainly from, they pick up whatever flavor you're cooking with. So that's a nice thing about mushrooms. And I think our chicken is probably about done here. So I'm going to just sneak over and take a peek. Oh, nope, and it's not done. So we're going to just keep it cooking. Move it around a little bit there. And you can see it's getting nice and like caramelized and just looking really good there. So we're just going to keep that cooking. And of course it will cook a little bit with our vegetables too, but I want to mostly have the chicken cooked through. I think I may have cut up a little too, or washed up a little bit too many mushrooms here. Let's see, we really just need to have 1 cup. So I think we're set with our mushrooms. So I'll go ahead and set that over there. Probably the most time-consuming piece of cooking mushrooms is the spicing up part. That really is the main part that takes up time. Okay. I think our chicken is looking like it's about done. We don't want to overcook it and get it too browned, and we are going to cook it a little bit more once we have our veggies going. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and set it aside in a pan here. Just put it right there. Whoops. It's kind of a balancing act over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take another couple tablespoons of butter and put that into the pan. And then we're going to once that's heated up, we're going to saute our onions and our mushrooms. And then we're going to put some zucchini in there as well. So it's looking like a lot of vegetables. They're going to start to sweat down and cook down a little bit, especially the mushrooms will. as some of that water comes out. About 90% of plants is actually water. So one way that we get a lot of hydration is actually by eating fruits and vegetables. Okay, that's looking great. I'm going to go ahead and put about a tablespoon of my dried oregano in here. And that's going to be the main spice that we're using in this. We're going to put a little bit of sea salt as well. And for cooking, I always use pink sea salt, just pretty much for everything. So the pink sea salt is going to have some added minerals in there, some trace minerals from the ocean, and a little bit of less sodium. So I like to use that in my cooking. I'm going to pop that in there. And I bet our potatoes are going to be talking to us in a minute here. Let's see. Oh, it looks like we still have a few minutes on our potatoes. We're doing good there. So yeah, we're just cooking this, stirring it around. Let's get the rest of our vegetables cut up. So we've got a zucchini. These are some of the most just easy to come by. They're year round. You can almost always find zucchini. So I'm going to top and tail that. And then I'm going to just cut it down the middle. It always, like I said, is a great idea to be working with a flat surface when you are cutting, because that's just safer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this I'm going to make it into dice-sized pieces. So I kind of made 3 cuts there, and now I'm just going to cut through, and we're going to have this yummy zucchini. There's so many great antioxidants in zucchini, and especially in the skin part, and also some great fiber. It's really healthy for your nervous system, believe it or not, zucchini is. The interesting things of plants. The key is to get the variety and just get that diversity in, because with all the different colors and the different types of plants, they all have different nutrients in there. I'm going to put a little bit of my garlic in there. So we're going to use either 3 cloves of garlic, or I'm going to use about a tablespoon of my organic minced garlic that I like to get. So just kind of stir that in. I usually put the garlic after the onions because garlic can burn really fast, and burnt garlic does not taste good. So you definitely don't want to burn our garlic. One nice thing about onions and garlic, they're part of the allium family, and they're really good for your immune system. So tons of vitamin C in there, really super good for your immune system. Now I'm going to cut the other half of this zucchini. Sometimes you'll get a zucchini that's extra large, and then you don't need to use the whole thing, but this is a pretty medium to small size zucchini, so we're going to use the whole thing here. We're going to save the spinach for putting that in kind of towards the end of this process, because we don't want it to get too wilty. That's never a good thing. So we're going to just probably toss that in kind of at the end. But the next thing we're putting in are these cherry tomatoes. So these are just really good little tomatoes. You can leave them whole or you can half them. I like to kind of half them. And it's fun to get the variety, like the constellation ones that are different colors. Those are great as well. So tomatoes are a powerhouse of immune boosting antioxidants, which are so great. Definitely like to keep the peeling on these. I know some people will blanch them and take the peeling off, and if you want to do it, you can do that and then put that into your compost tea. There's actually a lot of really healthy chemicals, plant chemicals in the peeling. So it's great if you can keep that peeling on for most of our vegetables and fruits. That's the name of the game. I think we're probably not going to need to use up all of these. So we'll do one more. And those can be a fun one to grow in your home garden as well. So this is really looking very good here. We're just going to let it kind of saute, soften up just a little bit. And our potatoes are going to be getting ready here pretty soon as well. Okay, so now we need to get a quarter cup of Parmesan cheese, and we're going to use a half a cup of half and half. So with your, kind of like what we talked about with our poultry. So with poultry, we really want to go pasture raised. We want to have happy chickens that are running around and scavenging bugs and weeds and things like that from the ground. That's going to make them have better nutrition for us, and it's going to be a happier for the earth and for the animals. So same thing goes for our dairy products and our other animal products that we use. We want to get as close to nature as possible. So your wild caught seafood, for me here in Colorado, that's going to be like trout and bison. Those are the main sources of naturally occurring animals in where I live. So depending on where you live is really kind of, you want to get as local as possible. There's lots of benefits to that. So with my cream here, this is just organic half and half that I got from my grocery store. And we're going to use a half a cup. And this is going to just give us a really nice richness to our sauce here. Okay, I'm just going to glance at the recipe here, make sure that we've got everything that we're supposed to be having. And we do need a little bit of broth in here. So let's go ahead and we're going to add the broth in. Here's the rest of our broth. And I love how we're just cooking this all into one pan. So I'm going to go ahead and add my spinach now. We've got a half a cup of organic spinach. Growing your own greens is a great way to be sustainable, and I just can't believe how much more economical it is to grow your own greens. So especially as we get up towards, summer, you can have an outdoor garden, or even some of the systems like what I have here is the tower garden. So this is a great aeroponic way to grow your own greens and herbs. It's really nice. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the chicken back in there. And we'll let everything just kind of finish up cooking. And I can hear my oven talking to me, so I think our potatoes are about done here. Let's just get this all stirred in. Okay, and just let that kind of simmer. And let's see how our potatoes are doing. I'm thinking that we're going to give them a stir and leave them a little bit longer. Let's see how they're doing. I want them to get a little bit more brown than this. So they're starting to get brown, but they still feel a little bit, they kind of need a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and pop them back in the oven for a little bit longer. And we will take them out as soon as we're finished with our chicken here. So the chicken is, all the vegetables are just cooking down really nicely there. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat kind of down on this. And we are going to go ahead and add the cream in. So I'm going to pour the cream in and the Parmesan. Oops, my thing went off again. Uh-oh. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're just stirring in the cream, the half and half. I'm going to bring it down to a nice simmer. We don't want to overboil the dairy. That's going to make it clumpy, and that will not be good. And then we're going to take a quarter cup of our Parmesan. This is just shredded Parmesan, and I'm going to put that in there. It's going to be super good, and we'll just stir it all up and just kind of let that melt in and thicken up all together there. So we'll go ahead and let that rest for a minute. And again, you can tell that cleaning up is going to be so easy with this. So every time that you cook or prepare food, even if you're just preparing a snack, try and think about being able to save at least one serving to have tomorrow. I think of this as your savings account for your health. So you want to pay yourself first. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to save a serving to have later. And then we're also going to plate some out, and I'll show you what that all looks like. So we'll just let this it's kind of thickening up, and it's starting to look so good, and the aroma is amazing. So good here. This works well along with the potatoes, and usually I like to have a salad with it as well. It's really good to have a salad with that. And then it's nice to serve it with just a wedge of lemon. So we're going to go ahead and just cut another lemon here. Lemons are amazing for your health in so many ways. They have a lot of vitamin C, obviously, is what you probably know them as. There's also vitamin B, a little bit of vitamin B in there that's really good for athletic performance. It's really good for cardiovascular health. So having a little bit of lemon in water is always a good idea. I've got my water here, and I encourage you to reuse those jars. Like this was a spaghetti jar, and you can just take some of that lemon, pop it right in your water, and then you're getting some nice vitamin C and a lot of other phytonutrients. It's really good for you. So we're just gonna let everything sort of meld together here. And those tomatoes are starting to break open a little bit, get kind of blistery and yummy. That's really good. I'm going to just turn that up a tad. And this is pretty much ready to go. So let's see how our potatoes are doing. See how they are browning up. Okay. So those are looking really well. If you want to have them more browned, you can always leave them in a little bit longer. I'm going to go ahead and serve out some of my potatoes, and I want to get all the different colors in there. So I've got some nice potatoes, and then I'm going to go ahead and serve some of my yummy chicken here as well. And that's going to be absolutely delicious. We're going to get a lot of fiber and phytonutrients from all of the different ingredients that we added, along with a good healthy dose of protein that we're going to have in there. So we're going to go ahead and remember to save some for our health savings account. We're definitely going to put some in a dish to save. This might be a little bit of a big serving to save. I could have probably used a smaller dish on that, but that's okay. So we'll set this aside. And the chicken will actually freeze really well. The chicken dish will freeze really well. I would probably leave out the spinach if you're planning on freezing it, because that spinach just isn't going to turn out quite as good when it is defrosted if you decide to freeze it. So we're going to serve that with a little wedge of lemon on there, and you are good to go. So enjoy. I hope that this was a helpful way for you to understand some ways that you can be sustainable every day. That also helps your health, and it helps you to save money as well. And we welcome any of your feedback. I will just pop a feedback link right into the chat so that you can leave us some feedback. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining us. We are so happy to be here with you with your live healthy cooking demo from FitPros. Thank you.